I'm Chris Farrell from the All Things Good and Nerdy podcast, a wacky weekend morning show, part of the Gonna Geek Network, just like the show you're checking out right now. Shows on the network are individually owned, and the opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other awesome geeky shows over at GonnaGeekNetwork.com.
You are listening to the Starling Tribune, a podcast dedicated to the Arrow TV show.
All evidence against the suspect must be gathered within the parameters of the law.
How much more proof do you need?
The concrete kind.
Of what, you know that?
Signed, sealed, delivered.
This podcast is not produced or maintained by the CW, Warner Brothers Television, CTV, or DC Comics. All characters, situations, and stories are the properties of Time Warner. I am the Oracle, and this is your Tribune.
Welcome back to Earth 2's favorite newspaper. We call it the Starling Tribune. I'm the chief editor tonight. My name is SP, and your other reporters for this episode number 232 of the Starling Tribune are Chris.
He does know we have our own uniforms, right?
Yeah, they're not uniforms. They're not standard, but they're costumes. We can call them costumes. Okay. And Michelle.
We just need to learn to suit up together.
All in the same locker room?
Sure.
Guess so.
The cave evidently is.
Yeah, well, true. We've gone over that before. Do they have like changing rooms? Are there curtains? How fast does it take? We don't know. Anyway, this podcast is recorded on Thursday, March 14th, 2019, live on www.geeks.live.
That's right. And this evening, we'll be discussing the latest episode of Arrow, as well as news, interviews, articles, and announcements that have dropped in the last week that could, let's be honest, will impact future episodes of Arrow, as well as the greater CW DC television universe. That includes The Flash, Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow, Black Lightning, and anything else they announce between now and the end of this episode.
If you're new to the show, thank you for searching us out on the internet and joining us. After the show, you can check out our content at GonnaGeek.com, where you can also find other geeky videos, podcasts, and articles.
Thanks, guys, my award-winning reporters. Michelle, why don't you go ahead and break down what we watched this week?
Sure thing. This episode was called Training Day. It's Season 7, Episode 15. It aired Monday, March 11, 2019. It was directed by Ruben Nada. Credits include One Arrow, One Roswell, New Mexico, the new one, 4 episodes of NCIS Los Angeles, and 2 Killjoys. Written by Emilia Ortega Aldrich. Credits include 15 episodes of Arrow and Rebecca Rosenberg. This is Rebecca's first episode of Arrow. Rebecca's been the writer's production assistant for 13 episodes of Arrow.
All right. We have, I would say, a good executive team behind the episode. And we'll talk about the episode in a second. But before we get there, we're going to talk about all the CW shows that are superhero-related DC Comics that aired this week, starting on Supergirl Sunday, the 10th of March, 2019, with their 14th episode of the 4th season, Stand and Deliver, to a live rating of 1.05. And this episode of Arrow aired on Monday, the 11th of March, to a live rating of 1.02, followed by Black Lightning, aired the 15th episode of the 2nd season, The Book of Apocalypse, Chapter 1, The Alpha, to a live rating of 0.75. Ouch. And The Flash, on Tuesday, the 12th of March, aired the 16th episode of the 5th season. Remember, they are 1 week ahead because of that whole thing with the State of the Union address. Anyway, Failure is Not an Orphan was the title, and the live rating was 1.55. Guys, this is March ratings here. This is definitely some ratings. Again, we're gonna redo these ratings when we go through Legends of Tomorrow, though not this particular week. But Michelle, they gain about 1 million or 1.5 million somewhere along there with the Live Plus 7-day ratings, right?
Yes, they do.
Okay, so I think it's fine. I think we're good. I think they can continue on, at least for now.
Question for you guys. I have admitted on this show before I have not gotten to Black Lightning yet. Is it not as good as last season or something? Is that why we've seen a dip in comparison to the ratings from last season? Or is it just that more people you think are consuming via app or like buying the episode via download or something at a later time?
I think second season got off to a rough start, but it's gotten better. But I do think this is one of the shows that are viewed on the app. I really think Black Lightning is a DVR app driven show.
Okay, I was curious because look, when we're discussing the ratings, there's a big gap between Black Lightning and Arrow right now. And I didn't remember that from last season as much. In fact, Black Lightning was beating Arrow most of last season from what I recall.
Because there's a lot more people that are cutting the cord every day, and the app does not show the live shows. Not that I remember, at least. It only shows the shows the next day, so they have to be included in the live plus 7-day ratings. So you're not seeing that. Also, remember, Black Lightning, as far as we know, is not part of the Arrowverse. There's never been any mention back and forth either way. They have not been included in any of the crossovers since Black Lightning came out. And as Michelle said, the season did get off to a rough start. I think the last few episodes have been okay. I like watching Black Light. I'm current on all these shows, and I like watching Black Lightning more than Supergirl right now. A lot more than Supergirl. I cringed through Supergirl this week, and it's this whole mantra that they're continuing on. I mean, there's nothing more than they can do. They're 14 seasons in. They got to stick with the storyline that they've laid out. It's just tough on the Supergirl. So back-to-back Black Lightning, though, yeah, I definitely think this is a show that gets play in the live plus 7-day once it gets to the app. So, and in my case, DVR, because I don't watch it live on Monday either. Chris, you and I, we podcast on Gaining Geek on Monday night, so I don't watch anything live on Monday. So that's my excuse. But
Okay.
I do eventually catch up on it.
And I appreciate you guys giving me some insight on that because it's not like seeing a ratings dip on the numbers now. I was like, oh, I'll never watch it. It's just more of, I wonder why, as I was thinking. I didn't have the context to fill it in because I haven't been watching.
I was actually kind of surprised Arrow got above a 1 on that night because, I mean, there's college basketball that's getting into the selection Sunday. I would expect Supergirl, if they have an episode next week, I don't know if they do or not, to take a little dive because of Selection Sunday, but we'll see. And then, of course, the next week will be all of the tournament, the NCAA tournament games and stuff. And it's the same demographic that would watch the basketball games that watches these shows. So, especially on Tuesday night, if Flash is on next Tuesday night, that's like the play-in games traditionally. I have not taken a look at the NCAA schedule, but the play-in games have been on Tuesday night, and I remember the ratings taking a little dip on that in the past. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. In the meantime, let's get back to the episode of Arrow, and we start talking about the overall theme of the episode in relation to the title of the episode, the title being Training Day. So, Michelle, do you think that appropriately encompassed what the episode was about?
Yeah. I'm a child of the 80s, and I have to admit, I'm a sucker for a good training montage. And the whole, every member of Team Arrow at the SPCD, Star City Police Department, getting this lecture about, we can't do excessive force. Things have to be, you have to neutralize as soon as possible. And then Oliver's just simply taking down the guy. Guns can only be fired. So, in certain situations, and Renee is outdoing the cop when it comes to the gun. It was just really interesting how basically how many eye rolls, I lost count. Like Renee was just, I think, the king of the eye roll when it came to all this. Like, why? We've been doing this. This is our thing. We do not need this training montage.
Right. It was a good Renee episode for stuff like that. And, for those of us that have been watching the show, we're also in that exact same boat. We're like, these guys are certifiable badasses. They don't really need to know, here's how you disassemble a gun. Here's how you take down a target or an escapee or whatever in the most expedient manner. I'm like, have they been watching what these guys can do?
So the training might not have been needed, but they do need to be schooled in police procedures.
Agreed.
And I think that was stated but missing. I mean, this is an action show, so you don't want to show them in classrooms for a week or something like that. You need to show them actually out training, which they did. But they do need, especially if they're going to operate on their own as their own little squad. We talked about this last week where I was scratching my head over exactly how they were going to integrate with the SCPD. It turns out they get their own little vigilante squad underneath Captain Dinah. I don't know if she'd be the leader of the squad for the SCPD, because Oliver is obviously the leader, or if she's the liaison. I'm not sure how that's all going to work out in the future, but at least we know that their own squad, they can keep their own costumes, I won't say uniforms, and they can operate out of the bunker, which was magically cleaned up.
It's amazing
By
what money can
Felicity.
get.
Felicity knows how to get stuff done.
Apparently, how did she get the money? Where's the money coming from for this?
Magic?
Because
I
Oliver
don't
doesn't
know.
have any money anymore. It's not a sanctioned thing, or wasn't a sanctioned thing yet, of SCPD. Argus, I guess, maybe out of a black budget might have done it. Star Labs doesn't have a lot of money. I mean, they can't even fix their roof that's been broken the entire time that the show's been on the air. So, yeah, I'm curious as to where the money's coming from.
Had they waited until after they got their own task force and stuff, I would have assumed that the SCPD outfitted the bunker with the equipment that their vigilante team would need. But it was done before that. So I was also kind of scratching my head and going, maybe there's some wealthy benefactor that made a donation to the SCPD that was just for the refurbishment of the vigilante superhero cave or whatever to ensure they could work properly. I don't know.
Is Felicity selling tech on the side?
She hasn't sold much of anything yet, it doesn't seem like.
Yeah, and their entire 500,000 that was taken care of with the bond, right? That was forfeited. So, yeah, I don't know where the money's coming from. I guess it's a moot point because who cares? You know, we've got 7 episodes left this year, and then we got 10, so we're down to 17 episodes. Who cares where the money's coming from?
What gets me is after one little outing with Team Arrow and the police, it was very quick. Oliver just wanted to throw in the towel. I mean, I get it. They didn't listen to him. He does have good tactics. He does know. And it didn't go very well. And he gets yelled at because the evidence is destroyed and such. But he gave up rather quickly. Or is that just my opinion? Or SP?
He's trying to make this work, right? He's trying to be legitimate. He does not want to hide. He does not want the things that happened with William. He still can't get in touch with William. They just didn't show it this episode. I think his whole purpose is to try to fit in with the SCPD because that is the only way that he's going to get to do things in the future. And even when he starts to stray and he says, no, we're going to do this, we're going to operate out of the bunker, Diggle comes in and says, well, buddy, yeah, that'll work for now and it'll work for tomorrow, but it might not work for next week or next month. Why are you doing this? What's going on? And then they have to reveal the secret. And Diggle's like, well, okay, because of that, you really don't want to do this. And he's able to talk some sense into them, but he was already there from the beginning. That's my point, is Diggle just did a minor course correction for him and probably for him and Felicity, like couples counseling almost right there.
Yeah, that's what Dig's there for, though. I mean, he's always been the moral compass for the most part. And the, hey, here's what you really need to think kind of thing. The wise older brother, for lack of a better term.
We learned how Dinah definitely lost her power because we know it's verified that doesn't have the cry. But I love that little speech. What gets me is this little speech that Renee gives Dinah about how Zoe wears her pin every day and Zoe looks up to her. And Dinah, you're the Black Canary, whether you have a cry or not. It still makes me wonder what the heck happened between those two.
Yeah, I hopefully that's something we eventually get in the flash forwards. It's got to be something because they've made a big point this season of establishing how close their friendship is. Let me emphasize, friendship. They have not made any other kind of subtle hints that they're romantically inclined or anything. It's friendship, similar to what we saw with Dinah and Diggle in past seasons.
Let's back up a second to her canary cry and it being gone. It is definitely diminished to the point where it's non-operative right now. But I wonder if future healing will enable it to work a little bit, or maybe a procedure that Felicity is able to do in the future, because she's done it before. She's cured the fact that she was paralyzed. She's cured different things along the way.
And Dinah did refer to it as like when her nerve was cut. So the implication is it's nerve damage, similar to the same problem Diggle had in his arm that they fixed with a microchip as well. So the potential is there for that. We have not yet seen her use it in the future, which is something we pointed out as part of the thought of, well, maybe when that throat gets slit, she loses control of her powers. So just want to toot our own horns and say we called that. Granted, lots of other people probably called it too, but we like to be right.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's going to be fixed in the future or not. I was just pointing out the fact that it's possible to be fixed. I mean, this is comic book stuff. Anything's possible. But we'll go with it for now, and then we'll see in the future if it's actually fixed or not. I don't think in 7 episodes for the rest of the season that they have a chance to fix it. I think it'd have to be something that happens in the off season before next fall. And whatever they're going to do, they're going to set up the flash forwards in what she's capable of doing and what she's not. And they still have to get their tattoos, and there's a lot of stuff that has to happen in the next 17 episodes. So we'll see what happens or not. Now, you said the other thing about their relationship between Renee and Dinah. Yes, they do have a friendship. Yes, they have a good relationship. And it'll be interesting to see if maybe in the future it's a little bit more of a ruse than we're led to believe, or if there is something that's drawn in the sand to make a hard break between them, like the wall going up in the glades or something. I think, actually, now that I think about it, that's the most likely thing to happen is that Renee, and he brought it up in this episode, says that the SCPD has forgotten about the glades. And I think that thought will continue and maybe drive a spike between them.
And we got a hint of that this week too, where Renee made a point of, you forget about the glades on a regular basis to the police officers there, which, to be fair, has been a recurring theme for Renee this season, is his concerns over the state of the glades compared to the rest of the city proper.
You could almost say that's been a running theme from season 1.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was the whole point of the undertaking, was to destroy the glades and to make it something better. And I guess if you've been a target for 7 years and you haven't really been rebuilt for 7 years, and the police take too long to come to you, and there's fires, the fire department doesn't come fast enough, I could see that area have some resentment.
I'm still wondering why in the United States of America, a whole portion of a city was allowed to have this huge escape from New York-ish type wall that is resurrected around it. I don't know how high that thing is, but it's higher than any of the buildings around. I mean, it's huge, this wall that goes around the glades. And the other thing is the glades, in order to survive, if they do declare themselves as a separate entity from Star City, they have to have some sort of economic viability that's in that part of the city as well. And so far, I have not seen anything that shows me that they have any sort of industrial or economic base that they could support what's actually there.
Yeah.
Talking about in the future. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really see a lot of farmland or anything.
No.
So they're
Unless-
not self-contained. They have to have trade in and out. But I don't know how that's happening.
Well, maybe we'll learn when we learn more about the future. Which we had some of the future to, in this episode. And I guess another way you could look at it is that Mia has to train William how to survive because they need to get that micro cassette player. Chris, what did you think of William and Mia working together?
It was interesting. It's good to see siblings working together, but you could tell that William is not really quite used to the feeling of a bazaar like that. Mia's been doing it, been probably trading goods back and forth and knowing how to work with those operators there correctly. And he was not exactly subtle in the fact that he was wealthy, which makes you a mark when you go into this kind of depressed area, which we saw happen. He overpaid for the tape recorder and then got hustled so he could get stolen back. So William's kind of out of his element. You start to think he's not because he's negotiating in what seems like a good manner, but as soon as the street kid kind of tapped him as he was walking by, I was like, oh, he got pickpocketed. And I was happy to be proven right. So seeing them work together and the frustration they both have with each other kind of makes sense because they both have a different approach of how to handle things. Although William really doesn't have the best approach, it would appear here.
I wish we would have gotten to see William in any sort of actual physical training because he has a heck of a lot of genetics on his side from his mom and from his dad. Yeah, I know. We could talk about Samantha Carter as different from Anna Banana. But I think that he does have the capability to do the physical stuff that Mia's done. But I can also see the Felicity side of things coming out in him, even though she was not his genetic mother. Aside from that, the two of them, it's interesting watching them work. And unfortunately, we didn't get to see anybody else from the future team at this point. But this episode was about them hearing from Felicity and them learning to work together as brother and sister. And I think it did a good job of that. And I'm wondering how rich he really is.
Well, I mean, he's a tech mogul, so theoretically, probably fairly wealthy.
Well, this is 20 years in the future. So I wonder how much $500 is really worth 20 years in the future. Chris, when I was growing up, or Michelle, when I was growing up, maybe you remember this, gas was, 25 cents, and then it was like 80 cents for a while. Now you're lucky to get it under $2 a gallon.
Well, I think it's a matter of local economy also. Star City's pretty beat to hell, for lack of a better term. So $500 there probably means more than, say, $500 would in whatever William's actual hometown is.
We also found out that the message was not the voicemails that Oliver left William. So I was proven wrong on that.
I did enjoy that when they got the message, both siblings universally like, yeah, we're not going to listen to that, right? When she tells them to leave Star City. And like, no, absolutely not. Good, you're on the same page.
Yep, apparently they're willing to work together.
I love that look William gave Mia when he said, I expected you to say, Felix, you have failed this city. And she's like, that was dumb. And he just went, that's what our dad used to say.
And he said it in this episode too. And it's so funny watching him with his command voice without the mask on, because it's Oliver Queen, right? But he puts on the suit and all of a sudden he's got to sound like that, right? The authoritarian, deep voice. You have failed this city. He can't just do it normally. You have failed this city. He's got to go into Green Arrow mode, which is hilarious because he's not wearing a mask anymore.
Or even a hood.
But everyone else is wearing masks and stuff, and I'm kind of sitting there and going, why? The Black Canary really doesn't need to wear her mask anymore. Her identity is public. Renee doesn't need to, but I guess it kind of goes with his ensemble, so I kind of allowed it. Plus, I also like the fact he's gone to the old school Wild Dog look. And Diggle could probably get rid of the helmet unless he's just trying to avoid concussions or something.
They look cool?
I mean, that is true. And Oliver made the decision to out himself well before they were part of Team Arrow SCPD edition. But I mean, at this point in time, they really don't need him other than just looking cool effects.
Well, we know Diggle's got a heads-up display in his helmet. But
I forgot about that. Good call. Okay, so I will retract that statement.
But I don't know about the rest of them, if they have any sorts of actual optics in their masks or stuff. I think it's just a mask. It's not like Google Glass or anything.
I thought it was funny watching Felicity having to deal with Star City Tech. It was like, it crashed. The system crashed. It's funny. And then she's very happy when she was behind her own computer. And we learned that she tracked Midas using his DNA. So now she's able to really track other people with this technology, this magical DNA technology. And SP, we all know DNA don't work that way.
I was listening to that whole thing going, okay, so you're tracking DNA throughout the city. Okay, I'm just going to have to go with this because we've talked about it before on this podcast. This stuff is not supposed to work this way.
No.
Ha, ha, ha. Okay, I'll just get over it. And 17 episodes left. We'll see how this Archer system really works.
To quote our good friend Neil, why does it work? Because plot.
Oh, you can't say it like that. Say it right, Chris.
Because plot.
There you go. That's closer.
We got another little hint about the future. According to Bronze Tiger, Diaz is dead. And for information about who did it, he wants to see his son. And Laura Lance agrees, and he sees his son, and he calls him Connor, my little hawk.
Yep.
And as we've learned, Connor was John Diggle's adopted kid. Do we think this is the same Connor?
They certainly want us to think that, and I don't know any other reason why he wouldn't at this point. Which then still leaves the door open for the future we saw in Legends of Tomorrow and Future Star City, where we have Connor Hawk as a Green Arrow replacement. That could still theoretically happen. Who's really John Diggle Jr., so he's using his adopted brother's name.
It makes me kind of sad, though, because then Bronze Tiger wouldn't be in his son's life, and I really want him to have his own redemption arc. I thought he was, really cool at the beginning of this season.
Well, I don't think it necessarily means that Bronze Tiger doesn't get a redemption arc. I think it means that he doesn't live for much longer, potentially, and maybe during that time there's some kind of friendship that develops with Team Arrow, specifically with John Diggle, which is, if something happens to me, watch out for my boy. That's what I'm starting to think might be more of what it is, because John Diggle doesn't really know him that well. What would, in their current state of mind, make him adopt Connor Hawk, other than the kid needs a home? That there's no tie between the two, so that's why I'm starting to think that maybe Bronze Tiger gets out at some point, works with Team Arrow, and then dies with Team Arrow.
Just want to point out that we have not seen the body of Diaz, so I'm not going to officially call him dead. Again, comic book show, but we'll run with it for right now. And yeah, little Connor, I can't imagine that not being this. I mean, this is the show. This is not Caprica, right? They're not going to try to pull a bait and switch, not with 17 episodes left. So yeah, I'm thinking this is the Connor.
Well, one thing to keep in mind, though, we do know based off social media and Kirk Acevedo's tweets that he is no longer on set, that he has left Vancouver and is doing other things. He talked about, probably about a month ago, he was tweeting about his last day on set with Arrow and stuff like that. So we knew he wouldn't be on the show, so we can assume that Kirk is gone for a while. If the character still lives, maybe he come back super scarred next season or something like that. But they sure want us to think he's dead. But I agree, comic book logic probably does apply. No body being seen means probably still a chance.
So Neil McDonough left Vancouver.
True.
John Barrowman left Vancouver.
Manu Bennett.
We've seen them back on the show.
Right.
Not as regulars, but we've seen them back.
Yes, I think there's potential. And of course, there's always the potential for flashbacks, for time travel, anything like that that could make him appear. I mean, I think it'd be pretty cool if we were in future Star City and there's a super scarred but still mean as all hell dragon that is still around and shows up in the future, especially to confront Oliver Queen's kids.
Oh,
That would be
that'd be
cool.
awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Maybe pop
would
up at the season finale. Oh, that'd be good.
Now, Chris, we all know Laurel Lance is your absolute favorite character of all time in any show, any genre.
I love Laurel. She's the best.
Why on earth did she, after learning it could be Emiko who killed Diaz, call her in to her office to tell her that she knew?
I don't know, so that we could get a cool face-to-face between the two characters. I don't understand the strategy behind calling her in to be like, hey, I know that you did this. I think the strategy more would be, hey, let's talk to Team Arrow. Let's get some proof of this so that we can tell them that, because does Black Siren know that Emiko is Oliver's half-sister at this point? I can't remember who all knows.
It seems that she knows.
Okay. Yeah. So if that's the case, I would think, gee, Oliver's not going to believe me very readily because we have a rocky relationship for reasons that we've established before. Maybe I need to get a bit more evidence that Emiko is the one that supposedly killed Ricardo Diaz, even if it's just get him on tape with Bronze Tiger talking about it, because Oliver and Bronze Tiger kind of have an understanding with each other. I would think there'd be some strategy versus being, hey, I know you did what you did, and then her being able to retort, well, I know you're Black Siren, and them both kind of having blackmail on each other, for lack of a better term.
Just because she was in the prison doesn't necessarily mean that she was the one who did it.
Also, fair point.
Could have been Talia as well.
Right. So I agree with that. They probably want us to think it's her because we just got her revelation of her connection to the big bad last week. So it's entirely possible that she didn't do it, but the timing is suspect at the very least, and I don't really think she outright denied it either.
And we haven't seen her in the future.
Also true.
I was thinking about this today as well. From what I've read of Emiko in the comics, the character is not always a goody two-shoes, so to speak. There is always a cloud of something around Emiko. So I could see this being, you want it to be good because it's Oliver's sister, but in reality, she's not. Okay. Oh,
Anything
also,
SP, is there anything about the episode you wanted to talk about?
I did want to bring up one thing. I thought it was really cute how Oliver gave Mia's name, and I'd never put one and one together, that Mia was kind of short from Moira. So that was kind of cool to learn, even though, like Chris, Moira is not my favorite character whatsoever. But I thought it was really cool that they were looking at a family name, at least, and that Moira was chosen for Mia. So that was a nice connection to make.
I agree with you, SP, but at the same time, I was kind of surprised that Oliver would go back to his mother's name, or a name inspired by his mother, because while he may have made peace with a lot of her actions, like hiding his son away from him, being involved with Malcolm Merlin, there's also the revelation we just got this season that she was responsible for basically making Robert abandon Emiko. So I would think that would have still been bothering him. Maybe that's how he makes peace with it, is by trying to make it so that the name Moira has something good to live toward or look forward to, or something like that.
So Mia would be Moira's granddaughter, right? And
yes.
And Mia's never going to know her grandmother. Mia will know, because we already know that she has a bunch of tech data in her future computers and stuff. She's going to know what really happened with Moira, and she's going to know the history of how Moira was involved in the Glades and that sort of thing. But also, it would be just kind of nice to know that her grandmother was a powerful woman and that did have influence, and maybe that rubs off on her, the good parts of that. I mean, there could have been a lot of good that came out of that. And maybe Mia, hopefully, and it looks like Mia is choosing the right path along the way. She's just clashing with Felicity along the way, as any good mother-daughter pair really does.
Chris, anything else about the episode you want to talk about?
I don't have anything. SP brought up the point that I was thinking of as well.
Well, it looks like we're going to learn more about the future in next week's episode, which is called Star City 2040. It's season 7, episode 16. It will air Monday, March 18th, 2019. Mia and William go on a dangerous mission. Dinah, Roy, and Zoe deliver some devastating news. Flash forward, share highlights from Mia's childhood with Felicity. Directed by one of our favorites, James Banford, and written by Oscar Balderrama and Beth Schwartz.
Live from the Starling Tribune main news desk on floor 52, the Starling Tribune Tower. It's the weekly news roundup with award-winning chief news anchor Michelle Ely. And now, Michelle Ely.
Thank you, SP. I usually don't like to talk about rumors, but this was an interesting one about how the CW could be very interested in Arrow's flash forwards. A source close to We Got This Covered is saying that, yes, the CW is considering developing a spinoff for Black Star. At this point, not much is known other than Catherine McNamara is expected to reprise her role as the Emerald Archer's daughter, and that the potential series will take place in a future Star City.
Interesting. After Arrow... I've been taking some time to reflect on everything since Arrow's going to end in 2019, December 2019. And I've been thinking, am I really going to stay involved in all these series? Because it's a lot of time to stay involved with all these series. I'm not enthralled with Supergirl. It's mentioned that before in this episode. The Flash is intriguing, but I admit I am not riveted by it this year. I mean, this past episode this week was pretty good, but it's not like I'm riveted on the edge of my seat over it. I might be a little burnt out on everything because I have been trying to keep up with everything because of this podcast. So if it comes out that this is a neat futuristic sort of thing, I might actually watch it in passing, but I'm not sure if I'm going to watch Batwoman and continue on with the rest of the series after Crisis. I honestly don't know at this point. We'll have to see how I feel in December.
So personally for me, while I think the most interesting part of this week's episode was the future, it's because it's built on what we know of the current Team Arrow stuff and the current continuity. I don't know that I'm as interested in another story after this that's set 30 years after the continuity of everything else we're seeing. There's nothing enough there to hook me to say, hey, this is must-see TV every week. Batwoman's interested me. I'd be interested to see other things set in this time frame. If they want to play with this future Star City, play with it some in Legends of Tomorrow. Bring them in, make them be involved in something like that. I don't really care a ton about a story set 30 years in the future about the children of Oliver Queen.
And I'm not a big fan of the dystopian Star City that we have. Part of, I would hope it would be better. I mean, it's the point of these flash forwards that is this could be like the darkest timeline to, quote, community. And with Legends of Tomorrow working toward a brighter future and such, I mean, obviously something set in utopia can be hard to write for, but this, how gray and dark Star City 2040 is, I don't know if I really want to spend every week in it.
Well, we're already going to have gray and dark Gotham City with Batwoman, I would wager, because of the very nature of what Gotham is and what we saw Gotham look like in this last crossover. So I don't know that we necessarily need more grimdark. It's interesting. I get why they'd be interested in doing it, but I think they'd be better served working with characters in the current continuity of things. And God knows what Crisis is going to do that changes this future we're seeing right now in season 7 of Arrow. Crisis is going to change everything, I would wager. And I think you could still see Crisis merge the multiverse similar to what it did in the comics. And then we're in a whole different ballpark now. I would rather see them do a Superman TV show, to be honest, as was rumored at one point in time, because I think that Tyler Hoechlin, or however you say his last name, because I always screw it up, was delightful in the role. It grew on me. At first I didn't see it, and then I was like, oh, I kind of like him in this role. So who knows at this point? I wager they would be disappointed with what the results are of this show if it goes to TV. Hopefully I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. There's a lot of people out there that love the idea of the Felicity baby. They've been clamoring for it forever, and maybe they all jump over to the TV show featuring the Felicity children and keep it going. But for me, as someone who's been watching Arrow since the beginning and has admittedly had wavering attention in recent years, this is not enough to make me be like, oh, I'm glad Arrow's over so I can watch this show set in the future about their kids. It feels like the aftermath after MASH was done airing to me.
What's happened this year? We've got Nora over on The Flash. We've got William and Mia here on Arrow. There seems to be a lot of interest, or maybe they've done some market research and the interest is in these new characters, the new generation. Maybe they're just putting some stock in that and developing the show around that. I wonder at the end of this year if there's still going to be that same interest in the next generation of superhero families like Nora and William and Mia. I don't know.
It's an interesting rumor, and I hope it stays that point of just kind of a rumor and an idea. However, there were interviews with Catherine McNamara, who is Mia, saying that they had big plans for her character. I assumed that those big plans meant that she was the daughter of the Green Arrow in Overwatch. Maybe those big plans were they were attempting to backdoor pilot her into having a series of her own. I don't know.
In other news, The Flash is changing showrunners for season 6. Showrunner Todd Helving will step down at the end of the current 5th season to focus on development for The Flash producers Warner Brothers TV. Eric Wallace, who has been with the Grant Gustin DC Comics drama as a co-executive producer since season 4, will take over as showrunner starting with the previously announced 6th season. And we know how a change in showrunners can sometimes work and some not work. In Arrow's case, having Beth as the showrunner has been amazing.
And let's remember, in Todd's case, from what I recall, he's the one that had to step up when Kreisberg got fired in light of the allegations. And I don't know if they were proven or not. I don't remember. But the allegations that came against him, they were obviously enough to have him fired. He's the one that came in and course corrected and kept the ship steady, from what I recall. So kudos to him. But it sounds like Eric Wallace has also been there for a while. So it's very similar to what we've seen with Beth Schwartz stepping up to take the reins. I haven't been watching Flash this season. I'm just going to Netflix it when it's all done. But it seems like this is not a bad succession plan.
I don't think you have a bad plan on watching it on Netflix, by the way. And yeah, I think it would benefit from a binge watch versus a every week watch that I've been doing.
And that is all for the news. Chris, we are part of a larger podcasting network, aren't we?
That's right, Michelle. The Starling Tribune is, in fact, part of a network of shows over on the Gonna Geek Network. We've got 20-plus different podcasts that cover a variety of topics, be it specific television programs like us, the Starling Tribune. We've got general geek culture, video gaming, all sorts of different stuff. And as much as I would love to tell you about every show on the network, you guys would get tired of hearing me talk about every show on the network. But what I can do is give you a taste of one other show and say, hey, you guys might want to check this one out. And this week, I want to talk to you guys about episode 33 of the Dad.io podcast entitled Dad Shorts Number 1, Ryan's Circuit Bending Drum Machine. In this latest episode, Andrew and Ryan take things in a bit of a different direction while they are both hard at work doing renovation projects at their homes. Due to some unforeseen scheduling conflicts, they have not been able to get together to record a proper episode. So for the next couple releases, they'll be releasing some dad shorts. Quick stories about things they are working on or sharing funny family stories. So you can go check out the Dad.io podcast and all of the other shows on the Gonna Geek Network just by heading over to gonnageek.com and clicking on the network button. I'm pretty sure you're going to find something you're going to like there because we got a little bit of something for everyone. That being said, though, it is time for us to start wrapping up for this week. So a big thank you to all of the live listeners that participated over at geeks.live, but also a big thank you to everyone who has downloaded the audio podcast from StarlingTribune.com or caught the video replay over at youtube.com/GonnaGeek.
If you happen to have an Amazon device, you can enable our podcast as a skill. We now also have a Discord server. You've heard me talk about it before. If you are a weekly listener to the Starling Tribune, you can find our Discord server at gonnageek.com/Discord. We've been having a ton of conversations there about the recent announcements for the seasons and series. So come on and join us in the channel over there. Remember, you can always catch us as we record live at www.geeks.live at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific on Thursdays. We do have a live chat, and we are here to talk with you as we record the episode.
We would love to hear from you. We are the Starling Tribune on Facebook and Instagram, at Starling Tribune on Twitter, and you can call us at 612-888-CAVE. That's 612-888-2283. Well, this brings us to the end, to another great episode. Any last words before we sign off? At Stargate Pioneer.
Hashtag Hat Watch Police Call.
At the Chris Farrell.
Hashtag Why All the Masks, Hoss.
And I am at Michelle Ely signing off with hashtag training montage. Oracle, I think we're done here.
This was the Starling Tribune. You can leave us feedback at GonnaGeek.com or check out our archive at StarlingTribune.com. Visit GonnaGeek.com for more podcasts. Music by Kevin MacLeod can be found at Incompetech.com. This podcast is not produced or maintained by the CW, Warner Brothers Television, CTV, or DC Comics. All characters, stories, and situations are the property of Time Warner. No infringement is intended. We will see you for the next episode of CW's Arrow.